Ad secret. What's up, race fans? It's Thursday, and this is the Thursday Night Throttle, live on Top Row Racing Media, presented by ELH Detailing and Federated Auto Parts. I'm Buju, live in South Bend, Indiana, joined by Lewis Noakes from Top Row Racing Media. Obviously, this is a show that normally is a preview for the weekend and things you're excited about, and it's fun and it's upbeat. But the racing world obviously dealing with something that's not very fun today, and heartbreaking, quite frankly. And Kyle Busch passing away at the age of 41, tragically. NASCAR champion, one of the best to ever drive a race car, obviously. And anything we say here, I feel like is going to be obvious, and that's the tough part. And when you're in this situation, you have to talk about somebody who is on the level that Kyle Busch is. It's like there's nothing you can say that hasn't already been said. And when it comes to the situation, obviously so heartbreaking and tragic. And I just think about his kids.
Yeah.
Brexton Busch is on the precipice of being a big time race car driver himself, and was supposed to have his dad with him along the way, and that's not going to be the case anymore. So, yeah, obviously we wanted to bring that up at the top of the show. Lewis, I know you're not a huge NASCAR fan, but I mean Kyle Busch obviously extends beyond that realm.
Right. It's kind of one of those, like when you lose like Hulk Hogan, right? Like most people who, not everybody is a WWE fan or a pro wrestling fan, but everybody knew Hulk Hogan, right? And so it's kind of one of those, in this case, even if you're not a NASCAR fan or whatever it may be, most people probably in mainstream know Kyle Busch because of how polarizing, he could be from time to time. And so, I think when you have characters like that, like with Dale Earnhardt, right, when he passed away, he was bigger than the sport, right? And so I think it's one of those things that, as you said, it's the family, and it's the his kids and everything. And so I think that's where it's always remembering, right? Like, these are people at the end of the day, even though they're superstars to a lot of people, heroes to a lot of people, someone that you might look up to. At the end of the day, they're still people, and that's where you need that compassion and empathy and sympathy and all the empathies and sympathies, and all the things.
Yeah, sure. And yeah, like I said, anything we say is going to be obvious and it's going to be said by other people. But yeah, just an unimaginable loss, and it's not even just for NASCAR or for his fans. It's the racing world. I mean, the winningest driver in NASCAR history across the top three series, multi-time champion. I mean, he didn't have a problem racing the local tracks. I've seen him at Kalamazoo.
Yep.
An overall loss for the racing world that we'd be remiss not to mention. And it's obviously going to hang over the show, but we do have some local racing to cover as well. So we don't want to brush that away. Obviously, just a pretty big piece of news that, yeah. And when I texted Lou, I mean, I know Lewis was busy, so I made sure that he saw it before the show started.
Yeah.
And when I told him, I said, I'm rattled myself, so it might be a weird show. I mean, I was shaken for 20 minutes after I found out the news. So yeah, just a tough thing. And yeah, I don't know where to go from there.
Well, we do have our throttle response, but before we get into there, I do want to do a couple things. I just started a Top Row Racing Media channel. That's something that Facebook is doing that now. And so more and more people, like I know WNDU, WSBT, and a couple sent invites out for like their weather stuff. And Facebook kept telling me, start a channel. I'm like, I don't want to start one more thing. But finally, after enough notifications, I said, fine, I'll do it. So I'm not going to try to blow people up on it. I'm going to be mindful of even when I message. And so, I did an event reminder, for like the podcast, hopefully to continue to build our audience. Monday for the 10th straight week or whatever, we were the top podcast, at least in Michigan and Tennessee, even down to Bubba's About Broke podcast. We were a little bit ahead of them. So, it's one of those things that our Monday Night Rewind continues to be successful with. So it's what's one more way we can advertise something we do on race days, try to find time to like interview a driver and put that in the channel, not on the page, do something to have the, and it's free to join. Now you can leave at any time too. So hopefully, you don't leave, hopefully you find that it's worth it. But again, you can join, you can leave. There are prompts in there that fans will be able to engage back, but it's pretty much like Receiver. It's like one-way communication unless I do something specific. Then for 24 hours, it would allow like conversation. So one way that we could do that is with our throttle response. Is something that I could put in the chat as a prompt and in the channel. And for tonight, it's who was your favorite race car driver, non-relation. So that's something that, if I wanted to put that in a channel as a prompt, then everyone who wanted to would be able to respond back to that prompt. I'd be able to respond to people responding, and it's a 24-hour period. But right now, this is part of our show. So definitely in the chat, if you want to drop who your favorite was. I know I've said before on the show on Monday Night Rewinds, Tony Izzo was someone who I definitely grew up watching. And then Cindy Stremme is another driver who I could always think of, and Lou Stremme, obviously, with the connection of the name. So, Buju, what's your answer other than obviously with Rich Bull? I know you posted that picture, that he took you back to like your 7-year-old kid self. But who comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, and that's obviously what prompted the question this week was Rich winning at South Bend. And obviously, that being a big story with. And I've said it so many times recently. I feel like maybe the listeners have heard it so many times. But first car I ever saw pull onto a racetrack was Rich Bull at South Bend, and he's been my favorite driver since then. So him. Greg Early was another one that was he was in that same race. He was the second one on the racetrack. So I just went ahead and picked the first two I saw, I guess. But Rich Bull and Greg Early were two big ones for me. And then there's obviously, I mean, even being in the pits and being more comfortable, still intimidated by the guys that I grew up being a fan of, like, Scott Hance, Jack Landis would be another one, Andy Bozell. I saw Andy Bozell at Gateway last year, and I think I purposely turned away out of intimidation. So,
well, and that happens, right? And I think, when Scott Bloomquist was at Bristol, when they had dirt guys down there, that was someone who I got a little nervous around. But otherwise, I don't. In this role, I try not to get to, like, I was literally standing by Tony Stewart when I was doing an onboard camera with Mike Fedorchik, and there's 10 photographers and media people and fans who dropped their jaw when their group allowed me into their little area at the Rumble in Fort Wayne. How they have the like they're fenced off from everyone. I'm literally like standing here as we're watching the camera, and to me, I'm like, okay, I see other people, it's like a big deal to them. I'm like, I'm on a mission. I got to make sure that this camera's good. So, it did not faze me to be next to Tony Stewart, and I've obviously been with Travis Pastrana, Ryan Preece, Connor Daly, like a lot of big people. And it's like, I don't know, but Scott Bloomquist, definitely, that's when I got a little like shy.
That's kind of the same way I am, is like, if I thought you were badass from when I was like 6 to 12, I'm still intimidated by you. But like Carson Hocevar Gateway, I walked right up. Justin Allgaier, it's fine. That doesn't bother me. I'll do that without question. But like Rich Bull or Scott Hance, I'm gonna be intimidated by it. Rich a little less these days. Rich is my.
I don't know. Was it DJ or Keith who said the other day he kind of has just that kind of like, he always looks like he's grumpy look, but like he just has that serious look. But I know we have people in and out, so I do want to remind everyone for the throttle response tonight, who's your favorite race car driver? Definitely drop that in the comments. You can add anything in the comments too, as we go throughout the show. But other than that, I know it's 7:08, so you're ready to pop in. It's not as long of a schedule as we've had in the past. Obviously, with Memorial Day, a lot of tracks are taking the weekend off. I know Wausau this year, they're doing a different scheduling philosophy where they've taken holiday weekends off. I know Russell's are doing the same thing. Hartford's doing the same thing. Other tracks are doing other kinds of events that, people travel, people not, so you'll get who you get. But But if you're ready to pop in while we pause the conversation just to let others get in, and then we can always come right back to it like we did before.
Sure.
You ready?
Yep.
All right. So, I do want to do a cheap plug time. It's like mankind. I almost forgot this part. Monday Night Rewind. We did talk about it for it's like 10 straight weeks now, the most watched podcast in the Michigan, Indiana area, and even down to Tennessee when I looked at numbers down in Tennessee. But Monday Night Rewind, this coming Monday, we have Will Greenwell, who will be joining us, one of the top voices in the nation. Super excited for this. He does work with veterans and helps raise money. That's that top photo over there. He's been on all the streaming platforms. You can hear him down at Salem, sometimes at Indianapolis Speedrome. So super excited to have someone with his caliber and talent to be joining the show. But I know we're ready to talk about the upcoming weekend. And again, it's Memorial Day. So, and as far as I know, all tracks are still green for tomorrow. I know the R word is in the thing, but for right now, everyone seems to be green flag, not green dots and shading on the weather map. But so for tomorrow, May 22nd, Corrigan Oil Speedway, that is the Michigan Auto Racing Fan Club night. So again, remember, if you join the Michigan Auto Fan Racing Club and register for their benefits, you could go to this event for free at Trice, which debuts the Tri-State Sprints for 2026. So I know I'm excited for them. They're a partner of Topper Racing Media, Fan Zone partner. So they have Tri-State Sprints at Corrigan Oil as well as I can't talk bougie today. Front-wheel drives, pure stocks and trucks, street stocks, and then of course the mini wedges. So another packed show at Corrigan Oil, and then at I-96. They have the UMP late models, street stocks, compacts, mini wedge racing, American Ironman late models as well. I don't think it's first responder night. I might have forgotten to change that. I might have to go back and look. I'm pretty sure that's not right, but I do know the Ironman late models are there. And then at Winston Speedway, they have, again, this is their second week in action. It sounds like they were packed last week and had a lot of fans there. So kudos to their kickoff last week. I know they've put a lot of work into that track, and it's a track that came back that was closed. How often are we saying something like that? So again, definitely go out and support the team over at Winston, but they have Friday Night Lights. They do have a double header this weekend. So on Friday, they have their Friday Night Lights Classics, so super late models, IMC Modifieds, Pro late models, street stocks, cyber stocks, Warriors, and of course the wedges. And then we'll obviously, when we get to Saturday, we'll talk about what they're doing with Drew Jack and everything tomorrow, or not tomorrow, on Saturday. Then obviously where I'll be, Modifieds return. This is not the V8 Classic. I did see someone post the V8 Special. This is not the V8 Special. The V8 Special is in a couple weeks. So we do have front wheel drives who will be joining tomorrow, where the V8 Special will also have like late models and that kind of deal. So this is a kind of a normal show, but we have modifieds instead of the limited late models. So just want to clarify again, if you saw someone say V8 Special, this is not it. This is Modifieds Return, though, for the first time since 2024, except if you count Super Shoe. So they'll have the template late model, street stocks, modifieds, front wheel drives. We're expecting about 18 to 22 modifieds to be at the zoo, and it is Hot Shoe rules. So again, remember, Hot Shoe has been moved to Kalamazoo this year in August. Then at Grundy County Speedway, they have $5 family night. So if you want to make a trip to Illinois, because they also have a doubleheader this weekend, they have the Mid AM Series, which is their sportsman late models, Crown Vic, street stocks, and then the Fast and Furious Midwest Super Cups. And then over at Mount Pleasant Speedway, they have their full show, which starts at 7 p.m. IMC Modifieds, Pro Stocks, Mini Wedges, Stock Cars, Crown Vics, and they have Lightning Sprints joining. Then our final Friday program that at least I could find off of my race pass, unless something's changed, is they have a Power Wheels night, and they also have 1,000 to win for Pro Stocks over at Tri-City Motor Speedway. So again, they have their B-Mods, Pro Stocks, like I said, 1,000 to win, street stock, bombers, and late models there. Then on Saturday, Berlin is doing their Memorial Day special, and so they'll have sportsman super late models, limited late models, and the MCR dwarf cars will be there. That's always a bad fast time when the dwarf cars are on the property, and they just zoom around that place. And then over at Butler, where I know Bougie will be on Saturday, at least that's what he advertised. They have they have the Valvoline Ironman Series late models, so that's a 7:30 p.m. showtime. So UMP Modifieds Street Stocks 4-cylinders, and like I said, the Ironman Series super late models. And then up at Crystal, they have the Great Lakes Super Sprint Series, so IMC Modifieds, Pro Stocks, Mini Wedges, Sprint Cars, Stock Cars, and Bombers. Then a little bit closer and local, Galesburg, after a very successful night of destruction with the packed house, they are sending it back on Saturdays with their weekly program of late models, street stocks, and ABC Berg stocks. And that starts at 6:45. Then again, back with our friends over at Grundy County, we have the Enduro there. Their Spring Fling Enduro. So that's the kind of Enduro racing that I've always loved. And so when Jack brought that style over to this area and got away from the Night of Destruction one, I'm like, wow, this is what I grew up with in Illinois, going to Santa Fe and everything. So I'm excited. So the Grundy does an incredible job with Enduros, always has. That's a strong tradition for them. So that's at 2 p.m. Central. And if you have an Enduro car, you can always check out the rules and see what they're doing. Then where I'll be on Saturday will be the Memorial Day Mayhem Night of Destruction at 5 p.m. at New Paris. Excited for that. This will be my final Night of Destruction at New Paris until fall. So this is one of the ones that I'll be at, but I missed the July one, which everyone says is the number one. But this one will be pretty good. They have a lot of different events that they'll be doing, and you just never know the chaos that will be caused at the Arena of Destruction. And then on May 23rd, again, we have over at Winston, as I alluded to earlier, they have bangers, buses, and bad decisions. And so they have Cyber Stocks, Warriors, Enduro, and Enduro there, a bus Enduro, which I think that's going to be interesting. Midwest Compacts will be there, and then Starfleet. I don't remember what the Starfleet is. Drew Jack sent me the flyer, and I just don't, right now I'm drawing blank on what the Starfleet was, but that'll be there over again at Winston. And then Shady Hill has the Shady Hill 500, and it's their Hoosier race fan night. So again, that's something to take advantage of. I don't remember the all the benefits and everything that the Hoosier fan club has, but definitely they'll be there. So UMP Modifieds, Hobby Stocks, Dirt Late Models, and 4-cylinders. And it's not on the schedule, but I just got invited this morning. Chris Mandel from New Paris reached out super early this morning. he was up, I was not, but super early this morning, and they invited me down to the New Paris parade, Memorial Day parade on Sunday. So I'll probably be heading back to New Paris to help participate in that. I don't know exactly what my role will be, but he called and said, we were thinking about inviting you, and I just forgot to call you, and so here's your invite. So so he said, I know it's a late night for you on Saturday. Maybe you just want the day off, but
yeah.
But I figure, that's going to help promote the track. It sounds like they're going to have about 6 cars in there.
Awesome.
The Richardsons will be in there. So Austin Richardson and his wife will be in there. I don't know if they'll have the Hornets or the Night of Destruction cars. Then Jeremy Dameron will be in there. It sounds like he'll be in the parade with their car, one of their cars. I don't know which one. And there's a couple others that he was telling me this morning. So I'm excited for that. I can't tell you the last time I was at a Memorial Day parade, but I figure, when you get an invite, unless something changes like with weather or whatever, I'll probably be back down in New Paris, back-to-back days to be a part of the parade. And I think it starts at 1 p.m. and I know it ends at the school. I said, well, where does it start? Don't know. So we're going to find out, but that's something that New Paris, that's one of their ways that they're really be involved in the community and everything. So so I'm excited for them to do that. So again, there's just lots going on, lots to do. I've not checked the comments. I don't know if you've been, but
Chris is giving you a hard time in there.
yeah. So this is funny. Yes, you posted an hour before. So what Chris doesn't know is that I was literally up all night working on my store, finally went to bed at 6 this morning or whatever, and then he called not too long after that. So when I did post, it was because I was getting ready to go to bed, but that's okay. My store is pretty much done. I'm legal in the state of Michigan now, so we could talk about that in a little bit. Don't buy yet. Don't buy, because I'm waiting for the clearance for, on my website, I'm going to collect the tax rather than the distributor that I'm working with. That way I don't get double taxed, because the way it works is like if you go and order something, I have to pay for it, but I collect through my website, but I have to pay for the order to be released. So like I get charged, but I get the
Right.
money
Yeah.
back. So so it's one of those things that setting all that up and then trying to figure out how I wanted to do shipping, because I have to pay for each item to be shipped. Whereas um, it's like, well, when I was practicing and something was like $22 shipping, I went, if that were me, I would empty out that cart so damn fast that the cart wouldn't even know what happened. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, no. So I tried to do a lot of math this morning, which at 6 a.m, math is not my thing, but I figured it out. So definitely check out the store on my website. It's nothing with, someone said, well, are you mad at quality graphics? It has nothing to do with quality graphics. It's just I have my own website now. You know, I want to try to bring as much to my website as I can so that it's in my under my control, because you know I'm a control freak. So it has nothing to do with them. They do quality stuff. I'm going to get my car redone from them, so there's nothing to do with quality. It's just I kind of want to bring more back. You know,
Yeah.
paying for this website, I might as well use all of it. So
Yeah.
but anyways, I know that was a sidebar.
Yeah. Yeah. And it must be something with early morning messages from Chris, because I woke up to a message from him. Yeah. I woke up to a message from him asking about some more announcer dates a few weeks ago. I thought I was texting Chris Highball for some reason. So I replied like I was texting Chris Highball.
Oh,
So it must be something with early mornings and Chris for some reason.
yeah, no, there. Well, and I think didn't you make like a post about like Chris Highball or whatever? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah. No, he reached out. He did. He also reached out about filling in for that.
okay.
So yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I was like, which Chris? Because
No.
there's
Yeah.
Highball and Mandel, and those are
Yeah.
two different people. But
No. Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, I had a great conversation with Chris. He doesn't know that I was like half asleep, but he does. Maybe he figured it out. But but I don't mind though, because again, they know I'm Team New Paris and I got their back and I want to help them and promote them and get
Yeah.
butts and seats and do whatever. So I did forget, Scotty's reminding us, and huge shootout. Oh my gosh, I cannot talk today. Shout out to Scotty. I know he watches Top Row Racing Media all the time, but I
Yeah.
did forget the little 500. That's actually shame on me. So
I think they're going to be okay without our plug, but yeah, the little 500 is this weekend.
yeah,
I honestly don't know enough of. I should know more about the little 500 than I do. I've just never been a huge sprint car guy, so the little 500's always kind of missed me a little bit. I want to go though. Obviously, it's on the list.
they're in drive. So I was invited to the media day in 2024 when they were coming to Kalamazoo for the first time, and all they did was comment saying excited to have you, and they reached out.
That been the sprint car tour.
Yeah, the sprint car tour. Yeah. So they reached out and said, "Hey, would you like to come on down?" So that was when it was in Anderson, and then I went back. This year they invited me out again, even though they weren't at Kalamazoo. I was actually surprised that I got invited, but I said, "Hey, I know you're not at Kalamazoo, but I'd love to come if there's still room." And that was not an issue whatsoever. I mean, they do an incredible job, that series. I will say, top to bottom, Jared and his team, they are well run. I actually miss having them at Kalamazoo this year. That was a series that I could see being advocated for. Not that other series aren't, but I know the mission of Kalamazoo this year was to really focus on local, bring in the smaller series who don't maybe get all the big plugs and all the different things. And so, so I get that, but it's like, man, when I talk with a lot of the drivers who are just, so many of them are phenomenal, that you'll see at the Rumble in Fort Wayne, that they little 500 is what they look forward to. That is like their Super Bowl. So if you think of NFL and Super Bowl and NCAA football, college football, whatever that's going to look like, WrestleMania, like all the things, like this is their big thing. So I do have a camera down there, not on a team, but with KTS. KTS is part of helping.
That's cool.
So they're taking their chesty down there. So that chesty used to be worn by Ryan Beavers, and obviously we lost Ryan almost a year ago, and that was just so devastating. But I said, do we want to carry on his legacy that he started? And so Ron has been carrying that legacy on that Ryan started. So they do have the camera down with them, getting different kinds of footage and all of them in action. So they'll be at Kalamazoo tomorrow, like expected, but then they'll be back Saturday for the little 500. So I know they've been down there since yesterday. So so I'm excited to see what they capture down there. So again, that's big. I'm a big fan of KTS, and of course, since 2023, when I first got cameras, they've been they've always been willing to have a camera with them in some capacity. So it's really exciting to see that, what they can get. So,
Sure.
so yeah, low 500 didn't mean to miss that one, but I missed it. So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can.
Like I said, they don't need our plug. But yeah, like you said, I know there's people that make a big deal out of it. I know the Danleys love this race, and Jason Seltzer's always very excited about this one. So yeah, definitely one I need to get to. Just I've always kind of missed the lore a little bit. I obviously know it's a monster deal and everything. Just not being the biggest sprint car kid, I've always kind of missed the little 500.
Well,
Yeah, Sodbusters is a good call. I'll let you.
Yep, and I know Crashers will be there. I almost thought about going to Sodbusters because for me, it's just right down Cleveland Avenue, hop, skip, and a jump away.
Yeah.
It's like in New Carlisle, but it's south of Sodbusters, and so it's not that. It's like a 15-minute drive for me. But then I'm like, I've not done it before. Ron will be there. Donald will be there, and you and I have kind of talked before, even on the show, where I let Donald do Donald things, and that's something he really loves and enjoys, and does a nice job with that group. So it's like I don't need to be there. Donald can go do Donald things, and that's like he does all the tractor pulls and all that. So that's where I don't like to stomp on him, right? You and I have talked about stomping, and he obviously would know what I'm talking about too, but because he got stomped on as well. But I figured let Donald do Donald things. That's exciting for him. So I'll be watching what he captures down there. But yeah, Sodbusters, I did forget about that too. But if it's not on my race pass, I forget it.
Yeah. That stuff is very much out of my realm. I've never been to it before, but I do think I'm gonna check it out Sunday. It's I mean, like you just also right down the road for me.
Yeah,
It's
for you, it's not that far.
15 minutes that way. So yeah, I might shoot over there for the first time Sunday and check it out with it being a holiday weekend and everything. Having that day off Monday makes it a little easier to go do something on Sunday.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, I might go shoot over there, check that out, and go see what Don's up to. Keep him out of trouble.
So before we get too far again, I see it's almost 7:30, and this is where we're actually ahead of schedule right now. But this is where I want to remind everyone for our throttle response tonight. Who is your favorite race car driver? Of course, non-relation, because obviously we have a lot of families who are connected. I mean, just even think of the Hannahs; they're connected to how many different people. So, so again,
Just
definitely
for myself, the Strummies I didn't mention earlier.
Oh yeah.
Not specifically Bobby, Lou, and Cindy. David was already off doing ASA and all that by the time I started going to the racetrack, so I missed David, and he didn't get the intimidation factor because I missed him during those ages. But Bobby, Lou, and Cindy are all still in that. I'm scared of them still.
I mean, Cindy, she commanded respect though on the track, and I think, and
Cindy's a badass, dude.
Yeah, just as a kid, when we interacted with them, of course, my mom and my dad had known about the Shremies and everything, and then obviously me growing up as a kid in Illinois and all that, we went a different way. But when we came back to this area, that's a name that I learned really quick. And they were racing an M40 at the time. They had already given up on South Bend under Mike Bird, and so they went to at M40 and were doing M40 things, and so that's where we really followed them. Was over at M40, and yeah, I mean, you knew when that 36 came on the track. So now Evan gets to drive that 36. It just doesn't look like the 36, but it's one of those, like, when she came on the track, you knew, right? And so obviously Lou too. Lou commanded a lot of respect as well, and their legacy will always be marked, in the Michiana footprint for short track racing. But yeah.
Anytime I see the snow poles, those big, long, orange, skinny, things that they mark in the snow. Lou raced with those on the corner of his nose one time. And every time I see those, I think of Lou Strummy now. But yeah, the Strummies obviously have to mention in that group as well for me.
Yep. So I know tomorrow you're somewhere, but on Saturday, what made you want to go to Butler?
Tyler Erb's gonna be there for the big super late model show. That's my favorite dirt driver in my brief time as a dirt fan. I've become a Tyler Erb fan. Basically that's what Evan Verdine was a fan of, and I was going to dirt races with him. It's easier to cheer for the guy that who you're cheering with or who you're with is cheering for. So I jumped on the Tyler Erb bandwagon, and he's a pretty cool race car driver too. So yeah, that's why we picked Butler. Our guy's gonna be up there racing for their big show, and I've never been there. It's always exciting to have the opportunity to check out a new track, and I don't really know a lot about Butler, so I'm kind of going in blind, which is also exciting. I'm kind of happy about that.
So I don't know if you were part of the channel, because I don't see how the channel engages
Yeah,
after some, like if
I
I
am in there.
and
Yeah.
then someone else. I know you're in there, but
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if you were in there when I posted the one question of how many tracks have you been to. So I had to do some counting because
Yes.
you had
Yep.
started it the other day, and I counted 22. And I just figured, have I been to the facility? I didn't differentiate if it was a mini wedge race or whatever.
Yep.
It's different. It is a different track, but I'm like, but it's at Kalamazoo, so
Yeah.
to me it's the same.
Yeah.
And so how many tracks total did you say that you've been to?
So Butler. Well, if you're counting, oh man, that makes so 33. Butler will be 33 races, active racetracks I've gone to.
Oh, okay. So you even went active racetracks.
Yeah.
I counted them if they're $1 million homes now. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean active when I went, I guess I should say.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
like Okanichi in
Right.
North Carolina that I went to in February, yeah, that's a nature park. I had that on the list initially. I took that. You can't really count that. And then I counted the New Carlisle track, which is literally just a strip of a pavement now. So I took those off the official list. So Butler will be 33 for me.
Yeah, but you were there. I
Yeah.
mean, there weren't cars there or anything when you were in
That was my original justification. It's like it's not my fault they closed before I got there. You know what I mean?
before you got there. I would still count that because you were there, you got to be part of it, you got to take it
Yeah.
in. So in the comments, if you guys want to add how many tracks you've been to, I've been to 22
Yeah.
of them spread
Yeah.
across.
Maybe we make that the official question next week is how many tracks you've been to. That'd be a good
Yep. Yeah. So, and that's where we can even test some of these things in the channel. Like I said,
thing.
it's free to join. The Top Row Racing Media channel. You just go in and click. You can go to my main page and click channel, and you can join in. You can leave at any time if you don't like the content or whatever that's in there. Like I said, I'm not going to bombard people. I really want to be respectful because it goes to Messenger. I'm like, that's just kind of, I don't know. When I hear things in Messenger, sometimes I roll my eyes and go, "What now?"
Yeah. Yeah.
No, not so much on the Top Row side, but every now and then on the personal side, I'm like, who's doing
Oh
what now?
yeah.
Because that's usually what it means is someone's doing something. And um or and I know like when Drew comes in, it's usually he's showing me something or whatever, so I don't mind him. But every now and then when I see certain names, I'm like, who did what now? Like that's the trigger.
Yeah.
So Ralph Reese, who I know raced for a while, got out of it. He'll be at Night of Destruction on Saturday with the bus, the short bus he calls it. He's at 20. He stopped counting after 20, and so no, Ralph, I don't purposely ignore you, but I just sometimes like Buju knows. Sometimes I just
No.
forget
Yeah.
to go in there. Like I just get busy doing so many other things that sometimes I'll go in and go, oh, I'd never opened that message.
No. I've gotten used to Lewis now, but there was a few months at the beginning when we started working together. I thought he was mad at me all the time. So.
Yeah. It's like I'm not purposely ignoring anybody. I just sometimes it gets super busy, and I forget to go back. I mean, if I showed you what my one Gmail inbox looks like, your eyes might pop. But I've
Yeah.
seen worse than mine. Like mine's only 1,000 something. That's not bad, and that's because I cleared a whole bunch out. But I've seen people with 20,000 plus unread messages. I'm like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
That's
A thousand's crazy too, but yeah.
yeah.
While we're talking about racetrack lists,
Yeah.
I have an ultimate goal. I want to see a race in all 50 states at some point. Then I'll move on to other countries too. But that's a big goal I have is a race in all 50 states. I think I was at 8. I think I'm at 8 right now. So we got a ways to go.
Okay. Yeah, well, so that's partly how I was counting. So I put out the states first, and I went, okay, Illinois, that's where I was born. So I started with Illinois. Then we moved to Indiana. So then I went Indiana tracks. And then we moved to Michigan. So I did Michigan tracks. And then I'm like, okay, well, I've never lived in Ohio, but obviously I went to Ohio. And then I've gone to Tennessee a couple times to Bristol for short track stuff, not for big car stuff. And then obviously Wisconsin, there's a couple tracks in Wisconsin. Like I'm a huge fan of the Plymouth Dirt Track. If you've never been there, you need to make that a destination. They race on Saturdays. They have they at least a couple of years ago before COVID, they had an incredible field of like sprint cars weekly, sprint cars. And but what I love about that track, and you've probably seen me post about it before, is it's surrounded by homes. The track was built in like 2005, so all the homes are there. It's at the fairgrounds. And they literally
being built in 2005 is crazy in itself, but yeah.
But it's right at the Sheboygan Fairgrounds, and literally as you pull in, you see everyone going into their homes with like brats and beer and all these other things. And so I'm like, oh, this is the most Wisconsin thing I've ever seen. And then they're all sitting on their decks watching the track. So it's like the community embraced the track where you see other communities play. I mean, literally, like
Yeah.
if you stood at the track, you could throw without much power. You could throw a rock at the closest house
That's
without.
not. That sounds like something. It sounds like something that would actually be in my dreams. Is a house, a racetrack with houses lined up and everybody's just on the deck
All of
drinking
them.
beer with their legs kicked up. Yeah, exactly.
And you
That
can
sounds like a
smell
dream community.
it. Yeah, you can smell the brats. And so I told my brother, I said, and sometimes I posted this is the most Wisconsin thing you can think of, but
Yeah,
it's very similar. Like you have the Chicago hat on. I'm a Bears fan too. I actually wish they'd pick a freaking stadium by now, but my brother's a Green Bay shareholder. That actually means nothing other than
yeah, exactly. He
whatever.
bought a piece of paper,
Yeah,
loser.
but he's a shareholder, so I've always told him, "Why are you not by my dinner? You're an NFL owner. You should be by
Yeah,
my dinner." I said, I'm a teacher at that point.
yeah,
Like, you're rich, I'm poor. But anyways, if you've never been to a Green Bay game, that is another thing. Like, I will give Green Bay credit that the stadium is like going to like a high school football game. I mean,
yeah,
it's crazy, and I did not get a hard time because I wasn't celebrating when they scored a touchdown or whatever, like my brother and the rest of all of them in front of me and behind me and to the
yeah,
side of me. And they said, "Why aren't you celebrating?" I said, "I'm a Bears fan. I'm not happy right now." And it was not Bears weren't playing. It was North
yeah,
Carolina one game, and I forget who the other one was. But they said, "Oh, okay. Well, we won't judge you, but Bears suck."
yeah,
And I'm like, "Oh, Packers suck too," but I can't say that loud enough because
yeah,
um, hmm, surroundings, read the room, right? I'm
yeah,
not doing that, but if you've never been to a Green Bay game, I'll tell you what, that go once.
yeah.
Uh, even
I think I'd burst into flames if I walked in there.
I mean, I survived, and I did the stadium tour. And one thing that I pointed on this, and
That
I
would be.
was not racing stuff, but they have the stadium tour. There's one spot they took us into a skybox, and I said, "This just looks like Notre Dame Stadium when I'm
Yeah,
standing up here." And then the guy said, "Well, it's funny that you say that because Green Bay and Notre Dame have a very linked history." And he said when they did like stadium renovations, they asked Notre Dame. When Notre Dame was doing stadium renovations, they asked Green Bay. And he said, but if you look very similar, there's a
yeah,
lot of Notre Dame culture in Green Bay's Lambeau Field, and he was able to point out some different things from that they got from Notre Dame, and so I went, oh, I
yeah.
was just making an observation, but I didn't know I was onto something. It just literally you in the one spot you're like it just looks like Notre Dame Stadium, and so but it's a classic bowl, right, and all that, and so again, and I'm not a Packer fan whatsoever, but I will say that going to the Hall of Fame thing there, going through the stadium tour, and going to a game I give them credit that environment. I've not been to an environment like that before, and I've been to Notre Dame games, which you can't replace their game day stuff, um, but for like an NFL level to feel like it's a local high school football game, that's
Mhm.
cool. So,
Yeah.
State Speedway,
I did a quick count again. I had nine states on that. I'm at nine.
9 states. All
Yeah.
right,
Indiana, Michigan, obviously, Eldora in Ohio, Grundy in Illinois, Bristol and Nashville in Tennessee, Freedom Factory in Florida, Charlotte, in North Carolina, Martinsville in Virginia.
yeah, well, in that one, you drove, right? You took the weekend off or whatever and drove to North Carolina to do that. That was, and I know that was a trip
Well,
you're looking
yeah,
forward.
I had a personal thing to do there too. But yeah,
Yeah, but that's something I watching the comments coming in. Kalamazoo Track Services, obviously. I don't. A lot of people probably miss it, but every Friday I go to them while they're doing their walk or whatever, and we do fist bumps. Just make sure I say, "Have a safe show. Have a safe show. Be safe out there."
yeah.
They've been a huge supporter.
I was in the infield at another track, I guess we'll say,
Yeah.
on Friday, and we were complimenting Kazoo and what the rollover simulator deal that
Oh
they
yeah.
do at the safety summit. Yeah, we were talking about how cool that is and how that
Yeah.
should be more of a thing everywhere. And yeah, so kudos to Kalamazoo Track State.
And that's track safe. So they did split. So there's a little bit of a difference now.
Oh, I
So
gotcha.
it was Kalamazoo Track Services, but Terry and oh my goodness gracious, why am I drawing a
Yeah,
blank on his name? They'll tell me in the chat if it'll come to me when it doesn't matter. But now that I need it, but they do that training all over, and they've trained
good.
nationwide, and so that's something that they split, so there wasn't a confusion. So Track Safe does its own training. That's who you're talking about, but they were KTS
I
guys.
gotcha.
And
Yeah,
then now KTS has their new Facebook page that they do, which is for the specific track service at Kalamazoo. And I think the Penny and Joe and them will post things from like other tracks when they visit because they're part of Reveal the Hammer now. They have a separate truck. So the Kalamazoo truck is owned by Kalamazoo Speedway, and then Joe has his black truck that has all the stuff for Sprint 500 Tour. So they're part of that, contracted through Sprint 500 Tour, and then
really
also
cool.
Refield the Hammer. So they're going all over, working all over. Obviously, they've worked at tracks that you've been to as well. So yeah, they do a ton. I mean, they're highly trained, and so I just want to give a shout out. Hope they're definitely being safe down there at Anderson, and then Sand Speedway. Have you heard about Sand Speedway? It's an asphalt track.
I have heard of it. Yeah.
So that was Ronnie. He was the one who did the Cops and Robbers race, and he was the cop, the old, Michigan State looking cop car from like the early 2000s, I think is when they used those. And he was also in the firefighter school bus that got absolutely T-boned and flipped over. So, and then his daughter Mary, was watching with him the other day on Monday when we were talking about Galesburg and all that. So, again, huge shout out, man! I cannot.
Yeah, that's the second shootout tonight.
What's the problem for me today? But shout out to them because I know Ronnie, been a huge big supporter, and obviously his daughter too, which we talked about the other day on the Monday Night Rewind. So Joseph, I see Joseph Owens asking. I've not been to Owasso. Have you been to Owasso?
I have. I did one for the Andy Jack show last year.
Oh yeah. I'm. They have their own video guys. They have all their own people. So that's just something. And they're on a Saturday, so I've always been somewhere.
We took a car up there to race, and it made it exactly half a qualifying lap before the engine blew up.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesome racetrack. Super cool facility. The light show thing that they do is awesome. I highly recommend Owasso if you haven't been.
I haven't. But we've been advertising them on here. We've been advertising their shows and all that. It's a track I've not been to, but like I said, when someone has like a streaming deal or someone has something, I usually try to not go there. Because even though I could do like onboards and all that, and I know plenty of drivers who are there, a lot of our Springfield drivers went to Owasso. But it's just something that, I'm at New Paris or I'm at Springport or been at Galesburg. Like I'm always somewhere. And like I said, I respect their media guy and everything. And again, I wouldn't want to go there unless I have permission to go there. I have been invited for their destruction overloads. The person who helps run that has reached out and asked if I would come, and it hasn't worked in the schedule for me to get there. So, other than that, since it is 7:40, I do want to do the quick rundown, like what we've been doing of the schedule one more time. Again, share this out, help everyone know we're on every Thursday. So again, this is the schedule for the week, at least from this area that I pulled from my race pass. One track I did forget also, now that I'm thinking about it, is Angola. I know Angola, they're not on my race pass, but they open on Saturday. They have racing. Toledo and Flat Rock have their shows. Toledo tomorrow, Flat Rock on Saturday. And so I should get them on here. When I get making through this, it's like we have our tracks that we've been covering that I forget to add some others. But again, Corrigan Oil is back in action. I-96. Winston Speedway, first of 2 days of racing. So they have Friday and then they do Saturday too. Kalamazoo, modified its return. Grundy County has $5 family night. That's Central Time Zone. Mount Pleasant has their fall show. And then also Tri-City Motor Speedway has their show tomorrow. And then on Saturday, Berlin has their mid-afternoon show. I always seem to call it is mid-afternoon matinee kind of deal. 4 p.m. With their Memorial Day celebration, their weekly classes there, plus MCR Dwarf cars. And then where Bougie will be is at Butler Motor Speedway with the Ironman series invading Crystal Motor Speedway has their show. And then Galesburg is back in action with their weekly classes. Grundy County, again in Illinois. Morris, Illinois has their Enduro. New Paris, Night of Destruction. And then, like I said, Winston has their Bangers, Buses, and Bad Decisions. So that's a Drew Jack show. He'll be up there with them. And then Shady Hill has the Shady Hill 500, which is also Harp Night. And don't forget, tomorrow night, Corrigan Oil. That is a Michigan Auto Fan Racing Club. So if you sign up for their registration, you get free entry to all of their events throughout the season with their Michigan Fan Club night. So you can go to a whole bunch of tracks and save a ton of money on the admissions just by signing up with the registration at Michigan Auto Fan Racing Club. So it is time, Buju, if you're ready for the 60 with 6.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let me add it to the stage. Oops,
DJ McCotter here. So, one thing about racing is that you can experience.
let me back it up. I was slow.
What's up, race fans? DJ McCotter here. So, one thing about racing is that you can experience a whirlwind of emotions. You can experience the highest of highs. Perhaps you get a real big win in your career, maybe your first win. Maybe you set fast time in your class or even break a track record, but you can also experience the lowest of lows. Maybe you wad it up with 6 laps to go in a big race. Perhaps you total your car beyond repair and you have to begin the hunt for a new build. Regardless, the key to it all is how you respond, where your head is through all of those situations. Because fans are watching, people are watching how you conduct yourself through all of these situations that could take place. Because you never know whose eyes are watching you. This is DJ McCotter, and I will freaking see you next time.
Bye.
So again, that was our 60 with 6, DJ McCotter. And so that's a carry on from what we talked about on Monday with him. Again, with we had him and Keith, and I thought you were like falling over.
The camera's falling.
But again, it's that you never know who's watching, right? So that's a very powerful message. One of the themes that came out of the show, which, we don't go into our shows thinking themes, but there are a lot of common themes with Keith and DJ. And so, so what's your reaction to what DJ had to say?
I mean, yeah, like just with the situation, like I've been talking about all week with Rich Bull, me being a little kid in the grandstands. He's the first car I ever saw on the track, and I'm not going to say Rich Bull was perfect through his whole career. I'm sure he did admit that he's made mistakes through the years, but I'm 25 plus years into being a Rich Bull fan and still a Rich Bull fan. So those, like DJ said, you don't know, or I guess DJ's kid said, you don't know who's watching. I mean, there could be that 7-year-old in the stands that's going to be a fan of you in 25 years and wants to be like you when they grow up. So yeah, like DJ put it perfectly. You never know who's watching, so keep that in mind.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like every now and then when I've had like, a kid come up to me, it's happened at South Bend, it's happened at other tracks where they're like, I just want to be like, just like you. Or even today when I was in the Meyer parking lot, someone came up to me and said, oh, are you top row? Yeah, I'm top row. And, I watch your stuff. And I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have expected that in the Stevensville parking lot. But but it was one of those things that's pretty cool. And they're not even from Michigan. They're from Illinois, going to their beach house up in Ludington, I think it was, that they said they were going to. But, they watch Top Row. So they're not even from this area. But they saw me in the parking lot. So it's one of those, again, you just never know. It's kind of even when I was a hiring manager and I, had a $250,000 budget that I was in charge of and all these things. And then obviously being a teacher in the classroom with parapros and all that, it's like it's always trying to act with that professionalism, right? Because you just, they, when you and I were growing up, they called it the 24/7 professional. And I don't think that that's like reality either, right?
No, yeah, absolutely.
At some point you're sleeping. So who knows what you're doing when you're sleeping, and I've punched a few people in my dreams, but like, maybe not as professional, but but it's one of those things that, again, it's just, especially at the racetrack, it's being mindful of, there are fans who are watching, and you just never know. Obviously there are drivers who know they are polarizing. There's fans that don't like them, but there's fans that do, and you never want those who will be your defenders to say, I can't defend that. And that's
and that, to me, and that's not even saying don't be emotional. You know what I mean? You should be emotional. Racing is a way of life. It's what we're all passionate about. Like, you should be emotional about it. You should be invested. When something bad happens, you're going to be angry sometimes, but there are different ways to handle it. And just remember who's watching.
As I would tell my students, because my students had emotional impairments, right? So they already had difficulties. And when parents would first come to my room, because a kid would be added to my room. And so when we would meet with the parents, I'd always say, think about, especially after COVID shopping, you want jelly for a peanut butter jelly sandwich, you're out. So you go to the store, you go to 5 different stores, you finally find jelly, but it's not the jelly you want. but you finally found something and you're okay with it. You get home, you're already frustrated. You've been to 5 different stores. You finally got the one jar of jelly that was left, and that was almost gone. And you're packing because you're already mad. You had to do all these things, and then you drop it on the floor.
Mhm.
How do you react? Because if you start, MFing this and throwing this and
Yeah.
throwing that and so angry, I said, okay, now your kid doesn't have the emotional regulation to handle that. So you as an adult has the capability of emotional regulation. You know how to do that. You have life experience to do that, and you lost your cool. Now imagine them with a disability. They process things way differently. So they would have maybe been set off by the littlest of little things, right? Like a pencil being crooked or whatever, right? And so one thing that we'd always talk about in my room is, you can show emotion, you can be mad, you can yell, you can do all these
Yeah.
things, but it was teaching on how to handle it appropriately, like throwing a desk across the room at somebody, not the best way to
Mhm.
solve the situation, right? But when you're 5 years old and you hulk out and you pick up a big wooden desk and throw it across the room, and everyone's like, how did you do that? And they don't even remember it. They blacked out, right? They don't remember how they threw the
Mhm.
desk. They just picked it up and, threw it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, okay, how can we help with that? So, again, so when you're in the classroom, or not in the classroom, but when you're racing, yes, be emotional, be mad, be angry. It's okay to be mad and angry. It's okay to have emotion. The world is not just Disney all the
Yeah.
time, right? But it's how you handle it. It's what you do with that. It's remembering, like, I'm the adult here. I need to keep my cool. I know better, right? We have life experience to know better, but it happens. Everybody slips up. Nobody's perfect, but then don't forget there are the consequences with any action,
Yeah.
good or bad. If I woke up,
I,
oh, go
I'll
ahead.
give you a real life example, and this isn't an extreme reaction, I guess, so to say, but it is something I guess I regret from a mood I was in at the racetrack. I think it was my rookie year at South Bend, and I was in Hornets. It was a backpack night, so all the
Oh,
drivers bring backpacks,
yeah.
and kids in the stands get them. And I loaded mine up. I put a Dale Jr. 124 diecast in there, and hero cars and stickers and all that. And I don't remember what happened in the feature. I had a bad night. I was in a bad mood. And the kid that got my backpack came up to me in the pits. And I mean, he was excited about what he got. I mean, he got some cool stuff. I loaded it up, like I said. And he was very appreciative of it, and he was very cool to me. And I wasn't mean to the kid by any means. I mean, I don't think he's going to remember it as a bad interaction, but I was just flat with him. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And God, I regret it. Every time I think about it, I regret that so much. I should have made that kid's day. And I was just ho hum. And yeah,
Yeah. Well,
I just a real life example, I guess.
yeah. But and again, and it happens, right? But if that's your first interaction,
Mhm.
is that the impression you would want?
Right.
Right? And so it's one of those, let's go back to Ronnie's daughter, right? We talked about it on Monday, but when she came up, when I was giving Liz Edwards stickers, and she waited so patiently and so respectfully and said, I follow you and I'm a big fan. I watch your videos. Can I have a sticker? Now imagine if I were in some kind of mood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that would be her impression. Then, like, oh, that's not what, like that wouldn't be her expectation. And then she'd go back to her parents, that top row guy is mean or
Mhm.
whatever. Right. And so, again, it's just always being mindful.
Yeah. And when I went to Indy last week for Indy 500 testing, walking around in the garage area, kids walking around with passes and all that,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I know the Indy drivers are dealing with a lot more than what anybody is at a local short track. I
Right.
mean, they're dealing with fans all the time, but just seeing them just walk by kids and be so
Yep.
dismissive, it was like,
Yep.
man, is this where we're at? You know what I mean? But I mean, I get it to an extent. It's just, I don't know. Those
That's
I know how I was at a kid at a racetrack, and I know how big of a difference that would make to me, and that's why I regret the instance I brought up, and that's
yeah.
why I don't like seeing what I saw with the drivers at Indy. And yeah, that stuff matters a lot.
I think that's what I miss the most sometimes is I wish, like, as soon as the last checkered flag waves at any track, I mean, it's not just one track, it's most
Yeah,
tracks. What do you see?
mass exodus.
Tail lights
Yep.
instantly. And that's the one thing that at Kalamazoo, there are quite a few drivers who do hang around and who will be around for a little bit, who are interacting because fans
Yeah.
can go down afterwards and all that. And I know not every track owns does that. Like some tracks, you have to have a pit pass no matter what to get in the stand or get in the pits.
Yep.
But after the races, Kalamazoo opens it up to anybody to go down. There's no pit passes required at that point, but nobody hangs around. And I remember as a kid, whether it was Grundy or Santa Fe or whatever, I mean, that's how I got to talk with Izzos all the time. That's how I got to talk with Schulers all the time. That's how I got to talk with all these drivers and get tire turds. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, they're going to be at this festival over in LaSalle, or they're going to be in Mathiasen or wherever they were going to be. Can we go? Can we go? Can we go? And get more tire turds and more tire things. And so, that's something that we kind of talked about, that I remember as a kid is literally drivers at Grundy and other tracks going through the stands with tire turds.
Yep.
And handing them to kids. You would think that's like not the most exciting thing, but to a kid, right? It's something from the racetrack. It's something from the race car. And that's just something that I wish that we can find a way to go back to. I mean, we're already in enclosed trailers. Almost everybody has an enclosed trailer. So we're already hiding the race cars, and very few trailers, we'll put, a $5,000 wrap on a car, but we won't put a sticker on the trailer, and I'm not judging. I mean, people do what they got to do, but it's one of those things that I just wish there was a time like that. And to have that again, where, people hang in the pits, even if it's 10, 15 minutes after races, not asking for an hour, but 10, 15 minutes, let fans come in there and rush through. Maybe you do have stuff packed away. Like I understand that, but maybe you're out there still with hero cards, or maybe you're out there with a Hot Wheel car or whatever that, you can hand that to a fan and engage. And again, I'm not picking on one track. That's literally everywhere. But that's one thing that I did like about Hartford's fan zone is you could go in for a certain time, and but I know it's harder to get people out, once they're in. And so when you're doing that before the races, now you got to trust that everybody who's in there has a pit pass, and that's hard to police too. So I get it. Like, it's not the easiest way to do that, but it's like, if it's after the races, 15, 20 minutes, hang out a little extra, and let fans come and see the car or see you and whatever. So,
that's what we got to remember too, man. It's all about the kid. If we're not getting kids to the racetrack, this is all gone very soon. If we don't start getting kids at the racetrack, it matters a lot. Make a kid's day at the racetrack, dude. It's just like you said. It's a little something to make a difference. A little something to, because if the kid's hooked, the parents have to come back. They're not left with much of a choice. You think my mom wanted to go to the racetrack twice a week, every week for 10 years? She sure didn't. But I was going to be a big baby about it if we didn't go. So.
Well, think of it, the Savannah Bananas. Every fan, right? And Jesse Cole has gone on, and I've not been to a Bananas game in person, so I can't say for sure that this is what they do, but they have plenty of video going around proving that's what they do, that they're living the philosophy they say, where he said every fan tell the last fan. And again, I'm not saying that you have to sit there all night for an hour after the races. Nobody wants to do that. I get that. But like 15, 20 minutes, is that going to cost you extra when you might meet a fan who's been watching you for years, or because of me, and I get my cameras from the track and everything. That's how I met that guy from South Carolina who came up because of my videos to Kalamazoo. Literally found me and said, "You're top row, aren't you?" And told me his story. Army vet, came on 2 Red Bulls, brought his kid to the racetrack for the very first time ever, drove all the way from South Carolina to Kalamazoo, and we almost rained out that night. It rained, and we did just features only, but he made that drive because he saw my videos on Facebook and said, we're going to Kalamazoo. So I know sometimes when people are like, man, I wish Kalamazoo was on Flow Racing. Well, I don't know. I got someone to come from South Carolina, so I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm not Flow, but I'm not just some Joe Schmo. But that's something that, again, it's kind of those that it's not to be like member berries, like South Park, remember in the 90s and the early 2000s. But, those are things in racing that I feel like when we say, how can we get fans? How can we get fans? It's, can you just do the little thing? Even if it's an intermission at the track instead of hanging out in the pits, and I'm just as bad too. Sometimes I don't get off the road in Paris, right?
I'm just as guilty of everything we're saying at times too, 100%.
But it's like, if that's intermission and I get that's the time to work on the cars, it's like, hey, can you take 5 minutes
Yeah.
And pick a section of the grandstand. Don't even do the whole grandstand. Just do a section of the grandstand each time. And here's a hero card, or here's something, to hand out or do, because you just never know that moment, that time, that you're going to impact someone for the first time, and now they're a fan for life.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
one thing that Chris mentioned on here, I do want to show this is mini wedges, right? I know it's a Sunday, or for a lot of times maybe Saturdays, depending on the week, but go to the mini wedges or Little Kalamazoo Speedway. There are places to go to support the kids and be there.
If you're a race car driver, a big car driver, quote unquote, at this point, and you haven't been to a mini wedge race to support the kids yet, what are you doing? I'm
Yep.
scolding you right now. Go support the kids. They're there watching you every single week. Go watch the kids. They put on an awesome. I was the announcer for the kids for 2 years. It was a blast. The mini wedge races are awesome. That makes a difference too. Support the kids that are supporting you. They're racing too. Go support them.
Yeah. Well, and Anthony Duell, right? He has Sonic, and he has characters on his car. I think of Bluey with Jesse and the Bluey car.
Yep.
And which then some people turn into a negative. It's like, just you missed the point of the post. So I'm not even responding to you. I'm not engaging back, because I'm just you're not gonna like what I have to say. And
clown behavior. Yeah.
Jeremiah Woods, his wife and I were talking one time, and I accidentally did a negative react to something she had said, and I apologized, because I'm like, that wasn't what, it's just, it was early, or it was late at night. I know you would never do that. And she said, because I don't want to be on your bad side. She said, I've actually seen you shut people down with one comment pretty quickly. So I'm like, yeah, you would know, and I know where to find you. But, but Anthony having, his car designed as it is, right? It's to be catchy, it's to get the cars. And then Brian Kuseba, who we just had on last week, and obviously good luck at Grundy this weekend, Brian, with both your shows. But, Raceway Park, which him and I both went to. You never went to Raceway, right? You never went there in Illinois. Yep. But Raceway Park used to have an autograph booth, and during intermission, there would be a driver from each division sending autographs. Tracks need something like this again. So yeah, it's one more way, right, to find a way to connect, and it's something that's within our control, right? You don't need the fanciest setup. You don't need you don't need some big presentation. Just think of a DJ Mikado walking around in his fire suit. Get a couple drivers each night or something. I do like Brian's idea. But it's like, how can we just do the little thing?
And that's what I'm thinking about. Like, even I'm thinking back more to being a kid, and it's like you didn't even have to be a driver or own the racetrack to make an impact on me. Because I think about Carl Smith, who sat out front with Ron's picture books.
Right.
He'd just chat with me about racing, like we were old pals. You know what I mean? That made a difference. Mighty Mike Powers was just a flagman, pit steward, racetrack everyman, and he was just nice to a kid, and that made a difference. So you don't have to be a person of power. You don't have to be a feature winner to make a difference to these kids at the track. Just be kind. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Make a difference.
Well, and that's why when I was at Hartford in 2022, I made autograph cards. They never had autograph cards for the track workers before, the ones who work the track.
Yeah.
So I came up with it. I said, well, you guys are part of the show. And I've seen kids get excited when those trucks come out to pack the track and water and all that. So it's like, let's give you the spotlight. And then we did that at Kalamazoo. We did that with the safety team. I made hero cards for them, and then they've gotten their own hero cards since then too. So they have a bunch now that, they were handing out, and they're part of autograph, and they kind of were there in the past, but not so much there in the past. I'm like, but you guys are, how many kids watch what you do, who want to be a firefighter, or who want to, think of Flagman McGann, or, these other flaggers, like think of all the kids who have the checkered flags. I think of Dylan Cassidy, up at Springport on Owasso and Corrigan Oil. He's a mini wedge racer, but he always flags, and that's always been fun to watch him do that. Think of, you haven't had Anthony Foote, really. You haven't had a chance to watch him race, but he's raced at Kalamazoo and Galesburg now is where he is. But he was flagging, and Tony Eldridge spotted him on that big night at South Bend in 2022 when they did that memorial race with the Kalamazoo driver. Jared Gino. Yeah. That's how Anthony got to flag, and he did that a couple times, and he's flagged over at other tracks too, and now he races, right? So, but maybe he's gonna have a career as a flagger someday. Like you just never know. And so
I grew up a kid in the stands copying what Ricky Bear said on the PA system, and I announced New Paris last week. So I mean, stuff makes a difference.
Jeremy Wardinger does the same thing though. So when you did that, I'm like, oh, you both came from the same tree, you know, like, because I've never heard that one before, so, until they did it at New Paris, and
What's
so
that?
the like flick your bics and
Oh,
all.
wave your hats, wave your hankies, flick
Yep.
your bics, wave to your favorite cars and stars on the high banks
Yep.
and bright lights and stuff.
You both, yep, you both did the same thing. I'm like, until going to New Paris, I hadn't heard that before. So, but again, I didn't go to a lot of tracks in this area until later,
Yeah.
right? So,
Ricky Bear was the best, man. I think Ricky Bear also announced the Sodbusters, so another plug for Sodbusters there.
oh, okay,
But
yeah,
the greatest short track racing announcer of all time. You're gonna hear him call some tractor pulls.
yeah. So that's something that, again, you know, when you did that, I'm like, oh, him and Jeremy came from the same tree, because
Yeah.
that's what Jeremy does, and so.
Yeah, I did. That was the first thought that came to mind when I got asked to announce, like, I'm doing the Ricky Bear wave lap line.
But again, just think how an announcer impacted you.
Yeah, 100%.
And it all comes together. And so I know our original question, you know, just to remind everyone, if you want to add any more, and we'll end the show here shortly, but this is the end. But just, we always do one more reminder of what our throttle response was, so you can keep the conversation going. But maybe it's about this, and from what DJ said about, you never know who's watching, and drivers can get in here and share their reactions and everything to, you know, like, what's something you think you could do as a driver to make a connection with a fan the next time you're at the track, or maybe your car's broke and you're at the track anyway. So, you know, what could you do if you're not racing that night? So, so again, that's something to kind of think about. And one more plug, we'll keep plugging this until it's the end, but don't forget, we do have a marketing partner special from ELH Detailing. Again, the weather's getting really nice. So, you know, bring your car down, get it detailed inside and outside, use the code TOP ROW. Between what was May 1st, a few weeks ago, and now all the way through September 30th. And you'll be entered for a chance to receive a full detail to be used in 1 year. And we're doing 2 total. So it's a $700 total investment from ELH Detailing that they'll be giving away. So the first one will be July 13th. We'll pick somebody. And then the next one will be October 12th. So we're kind of thinking midsummer. And then obviously, as we get into the fall and get it ready for winter in Michigan, Indiana, or wherever. So again, take advantage of that. While your car's getting detailed, you can get breakfast at Roma's Pizza. They have amazing breakfast. Even though you think Italian pizza, they amazing breakfast. Walk down the Waco Beach. You can see the Chicago skyline right from our beach here in Bridgman. You can also see Michigan City, Gary, Indiana. So not too far from where the Bears may play someday. And then the Cook Nuclear Plant just to the north. So, you know, if you like nuclear plants, it's right there. But again, ELH Detailing, Buju, you never know what people will come for.
Hey,
So,
fair enough, man.
throwing all the landmarks out. But anyways, obviously the beach is the big one. So again, marketing partner special, take advantage of that. They get the car next week. And I tell you what, it is about time, because I was looking the other day when, so we have Mikey's Drive-In here in Bridgman. So it's a true like drive-in. And when I open the window, I'm like, it is dusty in here. So that's where I go back out to fix the chip in the windshield. I'm taking a dust rag out, and I'm like, it's time for ELH to come do their thing, because my car is dusty from all the oil dry and everything. So
mine is already due, and after Butler this weekend, it will probably be time for me to go to ELH Detailing.
Yeah. You want to know something funny? Your car probably gets more dirt on it and everything at an asphalt track than what it will at the dirt track.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, 100%.
There are times I'm like, how is my laptop this dirty in an asphalt track?
The pits.
Yeah.
Pits are so damn dusty everywhere.
Yep. But well, just even the track itself, like you can see it in the light sometimes before even oil dry. Like sometimes I'll sit there even during practice with my phone and I got to wipe it off. I'm like, I'm in an asphalt track. How do I have that much dirt on my car or on my phone and car and everything? Yeah. So when I get the car wash tomorrow, that'll be the final car wash. And then, and then ELH gets to do a full detail this time. So, they get to go play with all the dust that I've collected over the last few weeks that I wiped down, but you would think it's like, it's in the air system or something. Cause as soon as I start driving, I'm like, I just wiped this damn dashboard down. How's there more? But, anyways, I know it's been another awesome show, Buju, and there's quite a few things to do this weekend. So obviously I'll be at Kalamazoo tomorrow, and then New Paris on Saturday. And I know you'll be somewhere tomorrow, and you'll be at Butler on Saturday. And other than that, we're at the weekend. So it's time to turn left and go fast, because
we'll see you at the races, and rest in peace, Kyle Busch.
Absolutely. Again, prayers and thoughts out to not only his family, but fans who, had a very big love for him. So see somebody at the races this weekend.